Hello and welcome to Fix My City on Asake Online. My name is Leslie Moyo. In today's edition of the program, we give you highlights of the National Residents Summit, which was held here in the city of Bulawayo, which was convened by the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association in partnership with other stakeholders. The conference was being held under the theme Rethinking WASH Sector Financing in the context of devolution, where the stakeholders were mainly reflecting on the implementation of devolution as contained in the country's statutes. I do hope that you gain more insight on the implementation of devolution in the context of local governance.
Today at Bulawayo, we are hosting the National Resident Summit, where all the residents associations in Zimbabwe come together and deliberate on different issues, different challenges that we face as residents. Our theme this year is on water and sanitation in the context of devolution. What inspired this theme is because of the water challenges that we've been facing as residents. This challenge has not only been faced by Bulawayo residents only, but it's been a nationwide challenge. So we thought it would be ideal that we come together as different organizations working with the residents to deliberate on all those challenges that our residents are facing, challenges that where we see an increase in water shedding from local authorities, where we see even government tabling issues of privatization of social services. And our fears as the Residents Association or as residents is that we feel like when you look at privatization and when you look at devolution, it's got conflicting goals. And one of the major conflicts is that when you're looking at privatization, you're looking at profit maximization, whereas devolution is speaking about empowering the communities, empowering the marginalized. So if you're going with profit maximization, for me, I feel like services will now be limited to only those that can afford.
We are very proud of our city, the city of Kings and Queens. We are trying to reimagine our city and boost it, not just here, but in Southern Africa, in the world. And so we always welcome people coming from other parts of the country. We know that we've got a lot to learn from your experience, but also we want to present our city in the best possible light so that you will go back to your communities and perhaps encourage people to come and visit here more and invest in our city. So for those reasons, it's a great honor for me to be here. This year's theme for this gathering is critically important. Rethinking the WASH sector financing in the context of devolution. And it couldn't be more timely. I've been in this role now for almost 2 years. And so I'm starting to understand the nature of the job and the challenges that our city faces. And the one thing I firmly understand in the context of Bulawayo, but I think it affects virtually all local authorities countrywide, is that although we have strong constitutional provisions that should promote devolution, the reality on the ground is that there are measures in place which run counter to devolution. I'll give you 2 examples. On roads, in the past, local authorities got car license fees which came into the budgets of local authorities. That money now goes to Zenara, and we have to literally beg to get some of our money back to repair roads. That is counter to the principle of devolution. Secondly, I give the example of water. This city has a proud history. It built its own dams. Ratepayers of this city over decades built our own dams and our own water infrastructure. But those dams were unilaterally taken over by Zimbabwe decades ago, and we now have to buy our own water back from Zimbabwe. That's the reality. That is counter to devolution. And even the devolution funds that are made available, we have little say in them. If you look, for example, at fire engines, we were told by central government that our devolution funds would be spent on 3 fire engines manufactured in Belarus. They've come, they're there, they cost $400,000 each. They are inappropriate for this city. And we have subsequently worked very closely with our partners, for example, Florian in the United Kingdom, who have advised us that we could have got top-of-the-range Mercedes-Benz or Volvo fire engines for 2/3 the price of these machines. It's another example of how we pay lip service to the principle of devolution. But in reality, there are many policies and laws in place throughout our country which run contrary to the principle of devolution. So as we apply that to the WASH sector, let me speak briefly about our city, and our residents' associations are painfully aware of this. We are on a 130-hour water shedding schedule in this city. Residents in this city regularly complain. Literally every day in my phone, on my WhatsApp groups, I get complaints, legitimate complaints from residents who speak about sewer bursts, who speak about the fact that despite the 130-hour water shedding program, they're only getting water every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. And the reality is that our water infrastructure is groaning. We have a water infrastructure which is over 40 years old. It is way beyond its economic lifespan. We do not have sufficient quantities of raw water. We last built a dam for this city, Mchabez Dam, in the early 1990s. That's over 30 years ago. And the population of this city has grown dramatically since then. So we have major problems. If you go down to the Ncema and to our residents' associations, I encourage you to make the request. Come down to the Ncema water treatment works and see how antiquated it is. It was literally built in the 1940s and is in dire need of complete rehabilitation. And the reality is, in this city at least, that our water infrastructure, our WASH programs are at a critical stage. And we have not had sufficient resources to adequately fund the maintenance of those, never mind maintenance, the rehabilitation and the new water infrastructure that we so desperately need. Let me leave you with a few things that we are trying to do ourselves as a city, taking into account that we, to be blunt, are pretty much on our own. That despite the devolution provisions in the Constitution, as a city, we need to understand that we are on our own. That if we do not organize ourselves efficiently, we cannot expect to receive much from central government. In fact, the reality of the last 2 years is that we have received a pittance from central government for our water sector, our WASH sector. Although there have been promises, those promises in the main have not been fulfilled. So I want to leave you with 3 examples of what we're trying to do. The first is that we are desperate to expand our sources of raw water. The government has told us, and it is correct, that they are building Gwashangani Dam, and we applaud government. There's no guile in what I'm saying now. We genuinely applaud government for building Gwashangani. But in all our discussions with the professionals, with the water engineers, they all, without exception, tell us that there are major challenges associated with Gwashangani. The major challenge is the pipeline. They tell us that the building of the dam is the easy part. The difficult part from an engineering perspective is the construction of a 252-kilometer pipeline up ahead of 500 meters. It is a major engineering challenge. It is going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. And we have looked right across the country, for example, at Tokwe Mokosi. Tokwe Mokosi was completed a long time ago. But if you look at the irrigation schemes that were meant to be developed below Tokwe Mokosi, they have not been developed as they should have. And that is taking water using gravity. In other words, taking Tokwe Mokosi water and using gravity to feed it down to irrigation schemes. How much more difficult is it going to be to pump water 252 kilometers up ahead of 500 meters, particularly in the context of electricity load shedding? So we applaud government, but we have to be sensible and realize that this is not going to be a short-term solution to our water woes. And because of that, we've dredged up the thinking of previous city fathers, people like George Mlilo, the engineer who was in the city with an esteemed record in our city. And I've personally spoken to George Mlilo, and he said in the early 1990s, when the city was given the choice between Mchabez and Glass Block Bopoma Dam, he, as an engineer, wanted Glass Block Bopoma. I encourage our residents' associations to speak to George Mlilo to confirm what he has told me. So we dredged these up. We dusted off feasibility plans that were done in 1988. We spoke to government. Government advised us very early that they do not have sufficient funding for Glass Block Bopoma. So we decided that we would need to invoke the principle of devolution and looking after our own affairs. And that's why we went to Morocco in December last year, assisted by the African Development Bank, to get the funding necessary from the international community to fund the construction of Glass Block Bopoma Dam, on the understanding that central government can't assist us. And we are making progress. And my little appeal to the Residents Association is, please get behind Glass Block Bopoma. It is a critically important project, but it is a very good example of how local authorities, if you're going to follow the principles that you're talking about, rethinking WASH sector financing in the context of devolution, rethink it in terms of, can you get international finance for WASH programs aside from government? And all that you ask for from government is not money from central government, but guarantees that government will ensure that monies paid by ratepayers for water can then be channeled to service international debts. So that's the first one, first example I give. The second is in relation to our sewerage works. I'm sure, like many cities countrywide, our sewerage works are in a dreadful state. Those of you who live particularly in our high-density suburbs know that we have sewerage breaks. We are pumping just down the road here raw sewage as I speak into the Umguza River. If you go to the Upper Umguza Dam, it's a nightmare. And the reason for that is because, as I say, our sewerage works are running way below capacity. We have little funding ourselves, so what we have done as a city is a public-private partnership arrangement with a local company, a property developer, which is developing properties on the airport road. They needed a sewerage works, and so we've entered into an agreement that they don't have to build a new sewerage works, but they will help us rehabilitate Azelby 2 and 3 sewerage works in the city. And we are now working on that. We have a contract with that local company, and the deal is they will rehabilitate the Azelby sewerage works, and the quid pro quo is that they don't have to develop their own sewage works. And that's a practical way of financing something that is necessary where we don't have the finances, where we're not going to get finances from central government. The third is an area, and my colleagues in the residents' associations know that this has attracted some controversy in the city, and that is the establishment of a water authority. And many residents' associations have understandably expressed concern about the water authority. Given the prevalence of corruption in our nation, given the fact that state assets are often taken and used for the benefit of a few people, a deep-rooted concern was expressed by residents' associations here about the establishment of that authority. The concern being that we take our city water assets and we hand it to the hands of a few people who then exploit those for their own benefit. So I get that. I understand that concern. But as I look at this, I believe that it's critically important that we do it. And what we need to do and what we need to understand is that water revenues coming into the city have been dissipated. People pay their water accounts, but instead of that money being used to rehabilitate our water delivery system, to build new dams, to get new pumps, it is dissipated. It is spread into all sorts of other expenditure. And what we need to do is establish a water authority which ring fences those water revenues to ensure that we invest back into the water sector. And to address your concerns, your legitimate concerns, we need to make sure that that body is responsible, is transparent, and that that body cannot be used for the benefit of a few individuals. But it's another example of how local authorities can make the best use of their own resources. It's another example of means of financing in the context of devolution. So, ladies and gentlemen, rethinking this WASH sector is in fact one of the most critical tasks that cities and towns right across the country have to do at the present time. We all know that water is life. My number one priority as mayor is water, and tied to that, sanitation and sewage. Without water, not only can existing residents not survive, but any hope that we have to attract foreign direct investment disappears if you cannot guarantee industries going forward long-term sustainable sources and delivery of water. We cannot do this alone as a city council. We desperately need a broad consensus, particularly from residents and their associations, that you come behind us, that we have these debates as you will be having in the course of the next 2 days. So I would end with the request that whatever innovative ideas come out of your deliberations, please could they be communicated to me and to my office so that we can enjoy the benefit of the collective wisdom of all of you here today. So my very best regards to you all and my best wishes for a very productive 2 days. This is a critically important meeting.
Worship, I think you are doing a great job here in Bulawayo. If all could agree with me, I think you should stay until 2030. Mayor, thank you very much. I think I share your frustrations in terms of too much intervention by the central government in your local authority. But I really wanted to ask that, given that the issue of opposition politics is not very clear. There seems to be a lot of pandemonium. To what extent is that lack of political muscle on your part affecting you, like particularly in terms of fighting for your autonomy as a council, given that you got in on a ticket of the opposition? And what do you foresee, maybe from a political point of view, as the future of opposition politics, given that in a democracy, it is key to have a vibrant opposition? Thank you.
You mentioned some alternative WASH financing models and the ones that Bulawayo is actually trying to do. But there is a model that government has also imposed on Harare in all open authorities, starting with Harare, Bulawayo, and Victoria Falls, which is the total privatization of water services. I would like to hear what's your position, maybe one as a human rights defender and also as the mayor of the second largest city of Zimbabwe, about the issue of privatization, and also considering in the theme of today that it's not a devolution decision, it was a top-down decision imposed by central government to all local authorities. What are you saying about that? Then in terms of the Kwai Shangani, Bulawayo is said to be going to be the major beneficiary in terms of water. But what do you say about the compensation of the people of Lubimbi who are going to be displaced by the dam? Bulawayo people will get water, but Binga people will get tears. What do you say about that?
So to my friend there, first of all, in 2030, my term ends in August 2028. I was elected for 5 years. That was the contract between myself and the electorate, which needs to be respected. So I'm saying this publicly on the record. If the constitution is changed, I will still be leaving office in August 2028. You cannot extend your favor on the electorate without their consent. Turning to the issues of the opposition, let me broaden this to sort of extract the sting of partisan politics from this discussion. I was an elected mayor. I was elected in my ward by a comfortable margin, 86%, that's fact. And I was elected mayor by the councillors. So to that extent, I received a broad mandate of the city of Bulawayo, of the residents of Bulawayo to deliver. The reality is that I'm a ceremonial mayor, and we have ceremonial mayors right across the country. And the reality is that we have virtually no power. When I study the Urban Councils Act, and I encourage you to do the same, you will see that mayors have extremely limited power. I can call a special meeting of council. That's pretty much it. But the reality is that in terms of how the budget is used, in terms of what the priorities are, in terms of getting work done, we are very weak. And my only power is what I term soft power. I can expose corruption through social media, through soft power. And that is the problem that we face in our nation, particularly in the context of devolution. If we genuinely believe in the principle of devolution, then we need to respect the wishes, the mandate of people in different cities, not just in this city, but right across the country and in towns and villages, to give their elected representatives a mandate for 5 years to deliver on their election promises. That's the essence of democracy right across the world. And just compare our governance to countries elsewhere. Compare what is happening in this city with Cape Town. Compare what is happening in this city with Freetown. The mayor of Freetown is a very close friend of mine, Yvonne Alisoya. And she is an opposition mayor in Freetown, but she has executive authority. And she is delivering the most amazing things in Freetown. And that is the issue. It's not so much about opposition politics. It's about actually devolution and respecting the will of the people. And that's what we have to fight for in our nation. We need to restore, in my view, and it'll go long. This is not for my own benefit. I turn 68 next week. I thought I had retired. So when I speak about the need for executive mayors, I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about future mayors, future generations, but we need to restore it in the country. Then regarding the privatization, the two segments of that question. Let me respond in two ways. Firstly, if you believe in devolution, then you must respect the will of the local authority to determine what is best for its own situation. And in that regard, let me compare, for example, Bulawayo's water delivery with Harare's water delivery. Even though we are on a 130-hour water shedding program, which is not acceptable, the reality is that 94% of households in the city, this is a fact, 94% of households do receive water. They are connected. And even though it might sometimes take a while to come, they do get water. Whereas in Harare, I don't know what that percentage is, but it's way lower than us. In other words, this city demonstrably can show that it has run its water services relatively well. And as there's that wonderful expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you've got a basic system which is working, then invest in it, but don't change it completely. And to have a central authority determining one size to fit all is unacceptable. So in the context of this city, my view, having been in this office for two years, is that I know that we've got an excellent water engineer. I know that we've got a dedicated team who really try. Let me tell you, not all of our departments are good, but our water engineering, our sanitation department is run by a highly competent woman engineer who really works hard and tries to deliver, and she's got a good team around her. Yes, they haven't got resources, but I don't see the need to totally change that. As I said in my opening remarks, I do see the need to ring fence, to ensure that we don't dissipate our water revenues, to make sure that we make that more efficient. But I would personally have a strong concern about the complete privatization of that authority, because I fear that it may be used inefficiently and possibly for nefarious purposes. Your second question on Gwashangani, the compensation of the Lubimbi people. You know, unfortunately, that falls beyond the jurisdiction and authority of the city. It is a legitimate human right. It is a legitimate expectation of people. And I just want to come back to Gwashangani very briefly. I genuinely say this. I am delighted that Gwashangani is being developed. It is a good dam site. We have not had these large dams built in Madabeleland. We need to welcome it. And I say that with every last drop of genuineness that I can. I also understand the goal of using that water to develop irrigation schemes between Gwashangani and Bulawayo. And that's fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. And in answer to the question regarding Lubimbi, I hope that they will be given absolute first priority in the allocation of lands for irrigation, so that they can go from where they are, a sort of semi-arid subsistence level of farming to a far more productive level of farming. And I think that that is the way to achieve equity and justice for those people.
My name is George Makon. I am the director of Weather Residents Development Initiative Trust, and I'm proud to be one of the delegates of a workshop which has been jointly organized by Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association and Combined Residents Association in Bulawayo. Basically, the workshop seeks to bring residents together and other stakeholders to deliberate on how residents can meaningfully contribute towards the improved wash services, water sanitation and hygiene. So basically, residents from diverse backgrounds, including from the urban and the rural areas, are here together to really map a way forward on issues to do with WASH in the context of devolution. So these issues are very key, particularly from a rural point of view, getting an opportunity. We are from the village, and we have also found an opportunity to really deliberate on our issues to do with open defecation, issues to do with potable water, and even issues to do with agricultural water. How we can do as a way of really getting clean potable water, as well as in a devolved manner, whereby we make decisions from our own localities. So basically, we managed to learn a lot from what the mayor has said, particularly on failure to remit what is meant for councils, say from bodies like Zinara. We learned a lot. We should push for those funds maybe to be released as a way of widening the base for the revenue for our councils. And again, we have been taught about challenges to do with devolution, whereby almost everything to do with the local government and service delivery is centralized in the capital city. How can these issues be implemented in our communities? Like, for example, we have so much interest on the provincial councils. We elected provincial councils in Mashonaland East and other provinces, but these councillors have not yet been called to work. It has not been implemented, and there is no funding for devolution. There is no enactment of that law. It only remains in the constitution. So I think at the end of this workshop, we'll be able to come up with solutions. And from weather, we recommend that let there be interface meetings between residents and duty bearers, particularly with the council, and really give their positions. If there are any challenges, we iron them together. And also, I think there is need to really do a robust civic education to the residents on these issues to do with devolution and WASH, so that they participate from an informed view. Then I also am happy that the vulnerable groups, including the disabled, the women and the youth, are here. But I think going forward, we must even broaden those groups and involve them. And also let's discuss from their own point of views how they are also being affected by these issues.
I work with Mashungo United Residents and Ratepayers Alliance as the coordinator. Yeah, I'm here in Bulawayo to attend the National Residents Summit, a platform where we discuss issues that affect residents throughout the country. It's a platform which we use to share ideas and to find ways on how best to collaborate in tackling issues that affect our respective communities. Generally, in our cities, currently we have serious challenges when it comes to issues to do with water. For instance, in Masvingo, we get water on average 2 hours per day. It's because the water reticulation infrastructure that is in Masvingo was designed for a population of about 25,000 people. That is in 1974, and it's still the same infrastructure that we are still using. Yet the population has ballooned to more than 120,000. So in terms of capacity, the Masvingo City Council is failing to supply enough water to the residents. So it's one of the challenges, of which water issues are affecting almost residents in all the urban areas in Zimbabwe. Ours is a bit different from other cities in the sense that we have water bodies with enough water to supply the city, unlike here in Bulawayo, where there is shortage of water. In Masvingo, we have water, but we don't have the infrastructure in fact, the pumping capacity to bring it to the residents. One of the issues that we've been discussing in this National Residents Summit pertains to devolution, which we feel as residents that the central government is shortchanging us. They pretend to be giving us a devolved system of governance, yet in actual fact, it's still centralized. It's piecemeal, the devolution, not devolution per se, as is enshrined in our constitution. So it's one of those contentious issues which we are discussing and which we hope to come up with strategies on how best to deal with it, so that at the end of the day we achieve the devolution that we all aim for.
The government is suggesting privatization. We feel that's an interference from the government. And I'll build my argument on what our mayor, David Coltart, always emphasizes when he talks about devolution, that before the 1980s, Bulawayo City Council used to build a dam, and for every 10 years they'll build a dam. They were doing that based on the growing population. But after the management of water was taken by government, which is Zinwa now, we saw Bulawayo City Council stopping to build those dams. And now the population has grown, and the dams that are there are not enough to cater for everyone. So I think it's important that local authorities be given the autonomy to run their own businesses, and so that they're able to meet the needs of the local people in their different local authorities, because what is challenging in Gweru might not be the same challenge in Bulawayo. So different local authorities should be given the leeway to manage their resources and to plan for their resources as they see fit.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I do hope you gained some valuable insights when it comes to the implementation of devolution. If you have any service delivery challenges in your area, do get in touch with us, and you can follow us on our various social media platforms at Site ZW. Let's meet again in the next edition of Fix My City. My name is Leslie Moyo.